Hey, what's up everybody? Joshua Casper back at you with a video review. And today we're checking out Spectre by Wavesfactory. Most of you know that have subscribed to my channel that I'm a big Wavesfactory fan because they made Trackspacer. I'm always raving about Trackspacer, and this new plugin called Spectre is right up there with it. Very, very cool plugin. It does something very unique and interesting to the sound, and I'm going to walk you through what it does and show you a couple of examples on how to use it. So what this thing is it looks like an EQ, right? And it kind of is. It's like a parallel EQ where you can boost certain frequency ranges. You've got control over the frequency here, the dB, although you can only go positive values. You can't do any cutting with this plugin. And you also have, your Q value here as well, which you can adjust with your mouse wheel inside of here, or you can drag and drop stuff as well. So very, very cool. It looks really nice. I like the color scheme. I like how the colors flow very smoothly from the purplish to the blue. You got 3 different bands inside of here. You can turn them on or turn them off. You can't choose the type of filter it is. And that's the same with the low shelf and the high shelf as well. You can't change those. You can turn them off by clicking up here, but you can't change the type of filter it is. So what does this thing do? When you boost a certain frequency range, this thing will check out the difference between the dry and the boosted signal, and then add harmonic, saturation, and distortion, depending on how much you crank it, to the signal. So it's actually going to add harmonics to your signal, depending on what you're boosting. So if I come in here to my project, I've got a piano here. If I go ahead and just bypass Spectre for a second. And what I've done is turned it on quality best. We've got a bunch of different saturation types. I've got warm tube. The preset's not really important. I've got it on aggressive just to really show what's happening to the sound. And on processing, I got it on stereo. You can just affect the left, the right, the mid, or the side, depending on what you're doing. Maybe on the bass later on, we'll go just mid or something just to show you. But this is what it sounds like now. So I'm almost getting like an electric guitar, a distorted electric guitar vibe from that now. It doesn't even sound like a piano anymore. And as you can see here, I've got my mix up to 100%. Default is about 50%. So this is really, really cool, right? I've transformed that piano into what sounds like a distorted electric guitar. But this thing can do a lot more than that. If I come into my bass line, and let's just go ahead and solo this. So this bass line is pretty subby, it's really deep, and it doesn't have a lot of upper frequency content. And that's kind of crappy for laptops and cell phones where most people are listening to music these days. So Spectre can be used as kind of a mastering or mixing tool in that regard. So I can add that upper frequency content using Spectre. I don't need to tweak the patch, and I've only got the audio sample here, so I can't get into the VSTI. This is a great way to do it. It does it musically. So as the notes change here, so will the added harmonics change from Spectre. So let me just go ahead, drop it on here. And all right, but now what I can do is either check out the musical notes here with a Spectrum or something. And I did a better tutorial on this for Plugin Boutique's channel, and I'll leave a link to it in my blog if you want to check it out, if you want to get more in depth with how to do this. But I could drop the Spectrum on here and just see where these notes are landing. So right here is about a B0. I can come in and, B0 is around 62.5 Hertz. I can come into one of these, double click here and just put, 62.5. And then that's where it is. And then I can just boost that range and choose my quality best distortion type, tape or something. Well, actually, let's go diode. All right, so now I'm boosting just that area where that bass is. I mean, there's really no frequency content up here, so even if I boost up here, nothing will really happen because it's not boosting anything. And remember, Spectre looks for the differences between the dry and the wet signal for each one of these filter nodes, and then adds harmonics based on that relationship. But I don't have any upper frequency content here, so this is not going to really do anything. So another way to do this, instead of coming in and just putting each one of the notes for the bass line, is just use the high shelf here. So I could turn that off and just go ahead and boost everything, below a certain frequency range, like 200 will be plenty, high enough. But you can see that the distortion being added here is actually moving along with the note. So it's a very musical addition to the upper frequency content. And each one of these saturations sounds a little bit different. You know, turn it on aggressive just so we can really hear. So depending on what kind of feel you're going for the overall track is going to make you choose what type of saturation you want here. Also, I might not ever keep it on aggressive. I might start with aggressive, mix up to 100% just so I can really understand what the sound is, and then I'd roll back on the mix and maybe go medium or subtle there, especially on a bass like this. I want it to still sound like an acoustic bass, but I just want to add that little bit of higher frequency content to cut through smaller, crappier speakers. You can also drop it on drums too. I find it pretty useful on drums. If I come in again, Spectre. So even this sort of subtle boost up here in the higher frequency, just where kind of that shaker is, really makes it a little bit more cohesive. It's almost gluing the sounds together by adding a little bit more saturation up there to kind of make things a bit more cohesive. So really, this is a great plugin for saturation and distortion. Distortion, obviously, when you start to really push it, but it's got a bunch of great sound and color in here. And, you know, tons of presets if you want to get in and just see how to get started with anything. But really all around great plugin for adding that extra bit that you might need because you didn't get it in the beginning stages of your mixing or your sound design or whatever. Highly suggest checking it out. Go check out that other video tutorial too about mixing bass for cell phones and laptops I did for Plugin Boutique. Again, links in the video description, but you want to check this plugin out. I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video.